Big Rab Show Podcast is kindly sponsored by G1 Reeds. They are the champion's choice, with many bands around the world playing G1 products, providing everything you'd need to hit the circle or the big stage. So, check out g1reeds.com as they keep the lights on here at the Big Rab Show Podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to another Big Rab Show Podcast. I have been sitting here agonising over how to start this week's show. It's going to be a really difficult one for multiple different reasons, and I'm sure by now you've probably already seen the news online. Yeah. The announcement came on February 22nd of the very sad passing of a bagpiping legend, Bill Livingston. He died 1 month ahead of his 83rd birthday, and the outpouring of love from all around the bagpiping scene over this past while since this news was announced has been incredible. I just can't put across the gravity of such a loss. Bill Livingston was a huge figure in the bagpiping world and was so well respected. He had a wealth of experience, and his accolades speak for themselves. And, well, yeah, whenever I was looking at this, I did think to myself, I have a very vivid memory of having met Bill for the first time. And I figured that's the way I'm going to start this week's podcast. I'm going to look back, actually. Whenever I started this podcasting journey, like way back, I was, attending the Live in Ireland 87 celebration concert in Belfast. I'd already previously seen it in Glasgow, and I covered it there too. But the opportunity to see it again in Belfast was as if lightning was striking twice. So I absolutely had to get to it. And yeah, for those of you who heard that podcast all those years ago, you can tell just how giddy I was to be there, to see the concert in person again, to celebrate that amazing music of the 78th, and yeah, to hang out backstage and chat to some of the people who were on stage that night. One of the real highlights of the evening for me, and was honestly the highlight of that particular podcast, that was kept to the very end for a good reason. I was genuinely blown away. I had the opportunity to talk with Bill Livingston. And in preparation for this week's episode, I did listen back to that episode, even though, yeah, it's completely cringeworthy now at this point. We've come a long way in our podcasting journey. But that was all the way back in 2017. And it was episode 7 of the Big Rab Show podcast. So that tells you just how long ago that was. So I delved back through the archives, quite a bit through the archives, and I managed to catch the interview I had with Bill. I figured I'm going to bring it to this week's episode to kick off tonight's show by way of a tribute. For me, it was a landmark moment. I was still pinching myself that I had an opportunity to talk with such a legend. And yeah, I still cringe every time that I actually had the cojones to ask him what his favourite cheese was. But in Bill's favour, I have to say, he is legendary, known for his sense of humour, and he was absolutely up for the laugh, which was fantastic. So I look back in fondness with this interview. I think I'm going to play it in full. So here it is. Here I am, all the way back in episode 7, as I was sneaking about backstage, I guess. And yeah, a huge moment happened.
Oh my word. I listened back to this interview a few times now, and I am a quivering wreck. Honestly, I was starstruck. I was nervous. I was genuinely nervous, and it was one of those moments where I had so many questions in my head, and I can't even remember what came out. That's why I had to go back and listen to it. So, you know, have you ever had that feeling where you have such a legendary figure standing right in front of you, and you can ask this person who has a wealth of knowledge of the piping world, and you come out with such stupid questions like, what's your favourite cheese? And I'm just slapping myself on the forehead. It's just awful. It's so cringeworthy. But I think I managed to calm myself enough to be able to get some intelligent questions in there. And here it is, my interview with the legend, Mr. Bill Livingston. Well, I am joined by what I was told, the man of the moment. Hi, Bill. Thanks a million for chatting to us on the show. How are you?
It's a pleasure, and I'm tired.
I'm sure. How have you found this whole experience? Because I was there in the Glasgow show, and I think the overwhelming feeling from everyone after the show was, wow, only for lightning to strike twice. Here we are again. How have you found this whole experience?
I think it's remarkable, and I think it's humbling. It's a real honor, and it's a highlight in my life, because all of these players, these top-notch players in pipe bands, have come together to celebrate the music, and it's a really interesting thing because there's no sense of the competition atmosphere. It's a sort of camaraderie and sort of building towards a single goal, which is to make grade 1 class pipe band out of nothing in 3 days. And so the team is just focused on that. And then all of these wonderful affections develop. It's pretty remarkable.
That's from talking to Reid earlier. He was saying that everyone is like best friends. There's no competition involved. It's all about making music.
Exactly what it is, and that's the refreshing thing about it. I don't know. Somebody once said that this may be the wave of the future. God knows if it's possible. But to bring together the very best musicians in our world and stage a concert, as opposed to a pipe band, let's say, before the World's Championship, going to do a concert. So they'll have their fans there, and then other bands who have their fans there will be listening, and they'll all be listening with the same terrible, twisted pipe band enthusiast ear. Yeah. Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
That was how you went sharp.
Bunch of bloody nonsense. Can you tune those D's? You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. None of that here. No, none of that. It's all just, boy, that's wonderful music, and it's great to hear it.
So tell me something. I've kind of grown up with the recording, and I'm sure a lot of the guys who are in that room have done the same. How has this music from 30 years ago still kind of, stood the test of time? You know, it's still as emotional now as what it was, I'm sure, when it was first performed.
Well, I have some very strong thoughts on that, and you may or may not know, I have a memoir which is being released probably within the month. And I devote a lot of time to the issue of how the World's Pipe Band Championships stultifies everybody, and there's a lot involved in it. First of all, everybody wants to be world's champion. It's a great thing to do. Yeah. And that alone would drive people to play the music that would achieve that for them. But now there is so much monetizing of pipe band stuff, with drummers and pipers making reeds and bags and selling chanters and all of that.
There's a lot of business involved.
So the only way that you can maintain your commercial profile is to be very, very successful. People teaching all over the world, and so what happens is it constrains ever more the choice of music, because let's not take a chance. Let's not take a chance. As long as we get in that prize list, then we can protect the brand and protect the product. So there's a lot of that which is keeping it back, and that's why this stuff, which is really, it's just, some of it is really pretty crazy, and that's why people love it. I think people cry out for this kind of breakthrough.
Oh, certainly, yeah. So, this is probably a really big question to ask a piper, but have you got a favourite tune? A tune that you can think, I just love that, and it kind of shakes your bones, gives you that, the hairs in the back of your neck kind of feeling. Have you got a particular tune that does that for you?
Funny, first of all, I am a pipe band man for sure.
Yeah.
But I am probably first, last, and foremost a pibroch player, and I personally think that pibroch is the music that the bagpipe in its present form was intended to play. For sure, I'll play crazy reels and hornpipes and jigs at top speed and all of that.
Yeah.
But if I want to feel really moved by a piece of music, I'll play the Lament for the Laird of Annapool, or the Lament for the Children, or something like that. So those are the things that at home in my piping room I can devote 15, 20 minutes to and just get carried away.
Get lost in it. Yeah, that's fantastic. So can you answer a really big question? With all of your varied career in the piping world, has there been one standout moment that you could think, wow, that's incredible?
One standout moment. There are tons of them. Many, many solo prizes, of which I'm terribly proud. But, a solo prize is a very personal thing. It's a private thing. The satisfaction is all internal. So it's terribly satisfying because, first of all, the music is so satisfying. But in terms of just what resonates, it's the great pipe band achievements, because I've got all my pals and all my friends and, people I love and people who love me back, and we all celebrate it together. So it's that kind of thing. So for sure the World's Championship was an amazing thing. And then here I am, all these 30 years later, playing with the top people in the field against whom I've competed for 30 years.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Exactly. So, Bill, can I ask you, what's your favourite cheese?
My favourite what?
Your favourite cheese. Have you got a favourite cheese?
Cheese?
Yeah.
What kind of a question is that?
That's a really serious piping-oriented question, Bill.
Oh.
Because I find that we draw a lot of similarities between the cheese world and the piping world.
I'm being put on, but that's okay. I love any creamy, strong blue cheese.
Ooh.
I love Stilton. I more love Saint Agur.
Ooh.
I love all that kind of cheese. Yeah.
So that's a silly question, but I'll ask you a more serious question now. Have you got any memories from the very first concert in Ballymena that kind of carried through all of this experience with celebrating the performance?
Yes, I do. I remember that at halftime we were down in the basement of the concert hall.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Not important. Of the hall that we were playing in.
Yeah.
And pulling through drones, and so it was a very muggy night, and rain. And I didn't think it was going well at all. I was really? Terribly unhappy with it. And my wife Lily came down to see what we were doing, and I told her that, and she said, "Are you out of your mind? They're standing on the chairs trying to get a better view. They're having a great time." And it just set me at ease, and out we went, played a set of 6/8, and it was all there. All of a sudden, it was all there.
There you go. That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for the show, because I've now been able to enjoy it twice. I was in Glasgow once, and I'm now here again. I've really appreciated everything. And what does the future hold now for yourself?
Well, I'm completing another 4 CDs in the Pibroch Diary series. As I say, my memoir is coming out, and I'm just entering into discussions with a great Celtic guitarist from Scotland, a guy named... isn't that awful? The guy I'm going to work with. Not important. Guitar and pibroch together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good. I would be up for that now. Grant, well, thank you very much for chatting to us on the show, and I wish you all the very best of luck for the incoming season and the rest of the year.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Wow. Thank you, Bill Livingston, for chatting to us on the show. What a guy. What a guy. I have so much respect for him. And yeah, to be able to chat to us on the show in the first place was simply incredible. Thank you, Bill, for taking the time to talk to us. And yeah, I hope you don't think I was being too foolish by asking you a stupid question about cheese. But I don't know, I got so tongue-tied and kind of starstruck. It was so stupid. So yeah, I was all in good humour. Thank you, Bill, for talking to us.
That was such a huge moment for me personally. I had been a massive fan of Bill's work, of course. I'm sure everyone listening right now has been, of course. And his influence is felt all around the piping scene. Many different ways it has affected the bagpiping world. It's kind of insurmountable. You know, people have been talking about he introduced the playing of bagpiping suites in concerts. Also the construction of medley selections nowadays in our competition circle have all had a touch of Bill Livingston in each one. And the approach to the music, for sure. Don't even get me started on the playing of Pibroch music. There is no bagpiper out there that I know that is not aware of Bill Livingston and his work in Kilmore. So I figured this was the best way to start tonight's show, that we have to pay tribute to the loss of a bagpiping legend. As I've said, the bagpiping world is filled with wonderful tributes online. They're all across, from every pipe band, every solo piper. It seems to be everyone has fond memories, stories, and fond thoughts of the late Bill Livingston. So from all of us here on the Big Rab Show team, we do want to send our sympathies to Lillian, of course, to everyone of Bill's family, to all his bandmates, to everyone who's feeling this particular loss right now. But just want to send our sincere condolences to all of Bill's family circle and close friends. And what a legacy he leaves behind. Following that interview that we recorded back in 2017, Bill released his memoirs, as he mentioned there. It was titled Preposterous Tales to Follow. After that, he then recorded his now famous The Pibroch Diaries, of which I've been definitely delving into over this past few months, and have been particularly feeling this loss even more so. So, by way of tribute, we start tonight's podcast talking all about the legacy and, of course, the amazing music that Bill has left behind. If you can, and if you're able, do raise a toast to Bill Livingston this week. Play a tune or two in the house, or even go and find a Spotify playlist or anything like that. But yeah, get some music played in memory of the late Bill Livingston. And with that, I think we're going to get into this week's podcast good and proper at this point. So we'll be right back after this. Do you wish piping could be fun again? Bagpipers around the world continue to struggle with their instrument, despite hours of hard work trying to get better. Bagpiping should be fulfilling. Your hard work should pay off, showing improvement and the freedom to express yourself musically. Or why do it? The Dojo University believe every piper should be able to free themselves from musical frustration, proven over more than a decade of successful teaching and accessible anywhere with an internet connection. The Dojo is unlike any other bagpipe learning experience in the world. Let the Dojo channel your enthusiasm into a fun and fulfilling program that will empower you with the knowledge to fall in love with piping all over again. So go to dojouniversity.com/Big Rab and take advantage of our 30-day free trial of Dojo Premium membership. Join the global community of students today and rediscover the fun of bagpiping. dojouniversity.com/Big Rab for a 30-day free trial. to take your playing to the next level? Say hello to the ES Session Chanter, the ultimate practice chanter designed for versatility and durability. Crafted from stainless steel and aluminium, the chanter comes equipped for both an A stem and a B flat stem, giving you the freedom to play along with any instrument, anytime, anywhere. Whether at a band practice or a trad session, the ES Session Chanter keeps pace with your creativity. Included with the chanter is the custom carbon carry case, the perfect addition to this compact and tactile instrument. To get yours, head to essessionchanter.co.uk. Okay, so quite a heavy start to the show this week. I understand that, and I think I'm justified in doing so. You know, it's one of those things when we lose such a huge legend in the bagpiping world, we need to pay tribute, you know, to the legacy they leave behind. And yeah, honestly, it's heartbreaking, and I think we're all feeling it, you know, and when we lose one of our bagpiping family, it affects us all. So again, if such a loss has affected you in any way, there are sources and people out there who are able to offer counselling and things like that. But if you do want to reach out even to your pipe band mates or even us here in the Big Rab Show, of course, what we're about to get into now is our listener mail. bigrabshow@gmail.com. That address again, bigrabshow@gmail.com. And yeah, we'll talk all about it in a future show, of course. You can let us know your thoughts and feelings, of course, and questions, queries. That's where you can get in contact with us. And this week, we don't have much in the way of listener mail. Now, there's a good reason for that, because, well, we have a lot of weekly drones to get through. It seems to be that there was a lot of opinions and stuff after last week's episode, but a lot of you don't want to be identified, so are making use of our weekly drone. So that's brilliant. That's okay. I'm really happy about that. And JD, we're about to put you to work, mate. But yeah, do send us in your listener mail as well if you want to. bigrabshow@gmail.com. All right, so that all being said, let's get into Weekly Drone then, shall we? Yeah, so each and every week we do open the doors to Weekly Drone, which is, yeah, an open microphone to the bagpiping world. So if you have any thoughts and opinions and stuff and you don't want to be identified for whatever reason, for fear of recrimination from associations, for example, then, of course, send it in to us. Go to our website, thebigrabshow.com. There's a big red button at the top of the page saying Weekly Drone. Click on that and you can let us know your thoughts and feelings, completely warts and all, without that fear of recrimination. So, JD, we've got quite a list of weekly drones this week to get through. Now, for those of you who did listen to any of their previous episodes, then you're gonna know what a lot of these we're talking about. Yeah, last week's episode we did delve into the topic of poaching somewhat. Yeah, and what one person constitutes as poaching and what another person constitutes as is another thing. Anyway, let's get into the weekly drones and all shall become clear. JD, lay the first weekly drone on us, mate.
It's the weekly drone.
We heart you, JD. Welcome back, JD. We missed you. We love you. We've all been wishing you and your family the best. Heart emoji. Thanks, guys.
Oh, isn't that amazing? What a way to kick off Weekly Drone. A bit of a love letter for JD. Yeah, there was a lot of affection for JD, I have to say. Well, as he returned to last week's show and the return of Weekly Drone. And yeah, it is brilliant to have JD back. So there you go. A bit of love for JD does no harm. There you go. All right, well, let's get on to business then, shall we, JD? Enough of the love fest. Yeah, get into some actual topic here. We need to get some discussion going. All right, JD, what's the next weekly drone?
It's the weekly drone.
Major championships. I think the biggest mistake the RSPBA made with the majors this year was having the British Championships as the last one to find a venue. If the European Championships was left, there's a possibility the IPBA or one of our other European cousins could set it up. None of them can realistically host the British. course, for those outside the pipe band world, the Europeans looks like a bigger draw, so that probably played into it. It's just something that's worth bearing in mind for the future, especially as it's now very obvious Scotland and Northern Ireland are going to struggle to host 5 majors between them.
Weekly droner. Food for thought there. Some interesting thoughts, if anything. Yeah, does the title of the major championship have a bearing on where it's hosted? Could we, for example, host the British Championships in Ireland, or France, or Belgium, or Germany, or any of those places? That's a very valid point. Never thought of it that way, to be honest. Could we host the Scottish Championships in the United States? Could we host, I don't know, any of the other majors in a different location? Yeah, the title of the major championship, I'm sure, would be a consideration to the organisers. Never thought of it that way, to be honest. So, fair point, and I think well made, and worthy of consideration. Now, I have to say, when it comes to our major championships this year, we do have a bit of a news story that we're going to get into in the news and updates a little further. Here, we'll talk about it now. All right, RSPBA headquarters has just put out a survey to all bands here in the UK asking about a potential date change. Did you guys see this? Yeah, the poll was actually sent out just yesterday at the point of me recording this. On the 25th, the RSPBA went out to all band secretaries and said, hey, there's been a cancellation at the venue. We have an opportunity now to move the UK Championship dates from being on the 12th of July to May 3rd. Now, this is a really interesting development because it now gives an opportunity, well, number one, to start the season that bit earlier, I guess, but also to move away from that controversial date for a lot of bands here in Northern Ireland. We spoke about it at length on previous pods about how problematic that date is for bandsmen and women here in Northern Ireland particularly. So, this gives a window of opportunity where the UK Championships could move. Now, I have to say that this suggested move is seen as a huge positive by a lot of bands folk here in Northern Ireland. That's the feedback I've been getting. And yeah, when they've been asked, should they move the competition from July 12th to May 3rd, well, I think from folks here in Northern Ireland, it's an overwhelming yes. Now, from what we can see online and reports on pipesdrums.com, Piping Press, and bagpipe.news, other articles have been published on this. And yeah, it appears that entries for the UK Championships have been predicted to be incredibly low as a result of the date that it has been scheduled on. So, if we now move it to another date, will that see a huge influx of entries? I hope so. I'm really hopeful. Yeah, so that's a really interesting development in that story. At the point of us recording it, we don't know what the outcome is of the survey. We don't know if the RSPBA headquarters will make that call and move the UK Championships to May 3rd. We're absolutely clinging on to hope, and we will let you folks know as soon as we know. But right now, the point of me sitting in my garage recording the podcast, we've no clue. All we know is that the closing date for the survey was, well, right now, at the point of me recording. And yeah, we're waiting with bated breath to get an outcome from RSPBA. So, I've no doubt we'll probably be talking about this in a future pod. But yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Here we are in the month of February. And yeah, we're seeing a potential date change for the UK Championships. Now, people have been saying it's a venue change as well. No, it isn't. It's on the west side of Edinburgh, and that's where it's staying. But they're now saying that they have availability to move it to an earlier date. So that's a really positive one for me, and for a lot of bands folk here in Northern Ireland. Yeah, so I'm hoping that will be the case. But we will keep across that detail, of course. And yeah, that's an interesting one. All right, let's move on. That's a developing story, I guess, and that's one less for us to talk about news and updates. But all right, JD, come on, let's give us another weekly drone. Come on, man.
It's the weekly drone.
Stuff that Rab got wrong. Rab mentioned that the National Youth Pipe Band being organized by the IPBA would be the first one on the island. there were previous iterations of a national youth pipe band in Ireland organized in 2008, 2009, and 2010. They played a number of concerts over those years.
Weekly droner. Whoever you may be, it's always a pleasure to find out whenever there is stuff that Rab got wrong.
Stuff that Rab got wrong.
Yeah, and honestly, I did listen back to that podcast where I did talk about the National Youth Band of Ireland, and yes, you're absolutely spot on. That was completely my mistake. It would not be the first ever. There has been a previous iteration, although to be fair, I don't know an awful lot of information about it. I've done a lot of digging online to see if I can find any more info. Been asking a lot of folk here locally as well, did they remember the National Youth Band of Ireland? Not too many people seem to recall it. So if you do have any more information on that first iteration, then please let us know. We are curious about that. But yes, I wholeheartedly hold my hands up and say yes, that's stuff that Rab got wrong. It will not be the first National Youth Pipe Band of Ireland. There has been a previous version. So that's on me. Consider my knuckles well and truly wrapped. That's me. All right, let's move on. JD, come on. We're going to get into this topic of poaching.
It's the weekly drone.
Poaching. The recent move of David Henderson from Police Scotland and Federation to Shotts and Dykehead has reignited the familiar debate around poaching in the pipe band world. One dictionary definition of poaching is to take or acquire in an unfair or clandestine way. But when it comes to pipe bands, can a player truly be taken? Every band member is a volunteer, free to make decisions that align with their own goals and aspirations. Sure, the timing of this departure, just 12 weeks before the competition season, feels harsh for Police Scotland and Federation. But that raises an important question. Was Shotts and Dykehead's approach unfair or clandestine? From what we know, neither Ewan Henderson nor David Henderson seems to think so. When I look at the broader picture, I see two bands in remarkably similar positions. Both are now tasked with building a drum corps around a new lead drummer with precious little time before the season kicks off. Instead of focusing on accusations of poaching, perhaps the conversation should shift to the resilience and adaptability these bands will need to show. It's going to be an interesting season ahead.
Weekly Droner, you have never said a truer word. It will be a very interesting season, yeah, for sure. And that is something we haven't really spoke about, the resilience part of this. Yeah, and you're quite right that both bands have now been flung into quite a huge transition period, I guess, of having to build drum corps. You're quite right. At the point of me recording this, again, the deadline for applications for the new lead tipper role at the Federation band actually closes in a few days. So we are hopeful to see an announcement pretty soon on that. Now, the closing date is on Friday, the 20th of February, and we're very hopeful that within the next few days after that, we'll get an announcement to say who is the new lead tipper and who's going to be, have a wealth of work in front of them, I guess. So, I don't know. We did talk all about this poaching element, I guess, and how I disagreed about the word and the wording of it all. That someone's being taken against their will kind of thing, and how I disagreed with all of that. And the turn of phrase that was used in a lot of the articles and opinion pieces published, it just didn't sit right with me. And thank you, Weekly Droner, for, I think you were agreeing with me. I'm not sure. But, there were quite a few of you who didn't agree with me as well. So, anyway, stuff that Rab got wrong. But let's move on. You did ask for my opinion last week, and I gave it, and I stand over it, I guess. All right, let's get on to another weekly drone, and whether they'll be agreeing or disagreeing with me, I guess.
It's the weekly drone.
Not poaching. I'm with you, Rab. Getting an invite to play with a band is not poaching. In my area, you can't just walk into a practice hall of a top band and say you're joining, just like you would with a grade 4B band. Top bands are by invite only. That lead tip got an invite to play with one of the greatest bands in the world, and he took it. Good for him. If you want to deny one of your bandmates from advancing because it inconveniences you, that's pretty selfish.
Well, that weekly droner is agreeing with me that it isn't poaching. And I guess, again, it's the emotive language that's been utilized here is my issue. You know, the very thought that someone is being torn away from their loving pipe band. An invitation was extended. And you're quite right. Like, imagine if I was to walk through the door of Field Marshal tomorrow and say, hey, I'm playing pipes in your band and you can like it. No, of course not. You have to be invited to Field Marshal. Or you go along and you do the whole audition process and all of that. Yeah, there's a process there. So, that's been my experience in the past, especially with top flight bands. I know I'm using Field Marshal as an example, but any of our top flight guys, you can't just assume that you'll walk through the door and they'll go, hey, brilliant, a new piper, a new drummer, come on ahead. Ain't going to happen that way. You need to be able to cut the mustard, as they say. And the way they do that is by inviting the biggest and best. And we did talk about this on last week's show, about how an invitation was extended, and then it was up to the player themselves whether to accept it or not. Now, don't get me wrong, all of this situation, it does kind of blow whenever you talk about the timing of it all. We mentioned all this last week, we spoke about it at length, and yes, the timing sucks. It now has both bands in a position, both the Federation and the guys at Shots are in a very difficult spot. They now have to produce some incredible music in a very short space of time, and that's no mean feat. So good luck to both bands in that regard. All right, JD, I think I'm going to allow one more weekly drum. We do have others on the shelf, but right, give me one more. I'm just going to pick one at random. Let's go with this one.
It's the weekly drone.
The devil is in the detail. Keeping the poaching discussions going. One thing that came to mind was, what is poaching? The devil is in the details. No one is being taken against their will. There are no kidnappings and no ransoms. Players changing bands of their own free will is not poaching. So what is? Is it a social norm broken? One simply does not ask people to join their band. Well, the scene would become stagnant within a few years, and slowly it would die out. Who decided that social norm? Well, it strikes me that the term poaching comes from the aggrieved. Those that have lost players feel betrayed by the players leaving their band, and angry by the cheek of others asking them to change bands. If that is the case, it is an embittered view to take and a refusal to see the positives for that player. It is also a refusal to take the player into account. People have their reasons for moving bands, and they aren't obliged to divulge their reasons why. Most tend to provide some explanation for their departure, mainly to provide closure, but it is not a must. So if poaching takes two to tango, can we really call it poaching? No. At the very least, poaching is a poorly chosen word for something that keeps our scene alive and kicking. Like it or loathe it, it is part of our scene. People will change bands. Accept it. Make your band a great environment where people want to attend, and let loyalty grow from that. But remember where you are. If you have a gifted player in a grade 3 band, and they get the opportunity to play in grade 1, how would you feel being that gifted player? What would you do? I doubt it would be the "no, I'm happy here, thanks" option. Naturally, things can happen in life where someone may decline. Kids, work, etc. Essentially, it all boils down to one simple fact. Hobbies should be fun. If you can have more fun elsewhere, by all means go there. But do it respectfully. Don't slam the door behind you. The RSPBA get criticized for whatever they do, so I don't think implementing a transfer window will solve anything. Again, the devil is in the detail. Here's a scenario for you. A player gets told after the first major that they won't be competing for the rest of the season. They haven't made the cut. If a transfer window does come into effect, that player is without a band for the rest of the season. That's not an option for the majority of us. Asking for rules like that are as damaging to the scene as the term poaching. To conclude, I personally think the term poaching is a poorly chosen verb that is not fit for purpose. There are respectful ways to recruit and disrespectful ways to recruit. There are respectful ways for a player to change bands and disrespectful ways. It's all part of the fun.
Wow, what a weekly drone to finish on, eh? Whew, a lot of big points made there, and I think overall you were agreeing with my stance on this. Yeah, the choice of the word poaching doesn't sit right with me, and by the sounds of things, honestly, that was randomly chosen. I am not deliberately picking drones that agree with me. But yeah, that does seem to be the case there. And yeah, you're quite right. This is a hobby. We are supposed to be enjoying this music, I guess. But yeah, I can honestly see the other side of it too. It can be incredibly hurtful when someone you've played with for a long time, especially someone in a leadership role, just suddenly decides to up sticks and clear off somewhere else, and especially to a competitor. Yikes. So, yeah, I can absolutely see the argument here. Now, the suggestion of a transfer window, yeah, I think we did speak about that could work. But, Weekly Droner, you've opened my eyes to a potential problem, and you're quite right. Imagine getting the tap on the shoulder at the start of the season to say, hey, come on, stand this one out, and then maybe stand the rest of the season out until you can cut the mustard, as we said earlier. Well, imagine having to sit on the sidelines and not being able to transfer anywhere else. Imagine you had your own home band that maybe played in a lower grade, for example, and you would maybe like to go and play with them for a season until you can, try and step out again in grade 1 the next season. Well, with a transfer window in place, you wouldn't be able to do that. In fact, you wouldn't be able to move bands at all until that window opened. Yeah, I just don't know. It's a pretty interesting element of that discussion, and I never considered that, Weekly Droner. Do you know what? This is one of these podcasts where I'm getting my eyes open to different things, and I'm more than happy to say when I'm wrong. And yeah, this is one of these occasions where I did think a transfer window would work, possibly, and I was kind of nearly swayed on that argument. But now when I'm considering this point that the Weekly Droner has raised, it's a fair argument. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult egg to crack either way. Now, as I mentioned before in last week's pod, do I think that the RSPBA should get involved in membership issues like this? Absolutely not. And I think a good number of you out there did agree with me on that as well. I got a wealth of emails on that didn't want to be read out on the show. A lot of you saying that yes, that bands should essentially take care of their own membership, and the association should largely sit outside of all of it. All they should really do is track the membership as to where they are. They shouldn't really have a say as to who goes where. Yeah, so folks, this topic is huge. It is also highly emotional for a lot of folks as well. There can be a lot of emotion tied in with loyalties to pipe bands, and yeah, the emotions run high with this. I do understand it. I get it. I've been in that situation myself where members have came to me and say, Rab, I've had an opportunity to play somewhere else. I'm gone. And there has been occasions where I've said, yeah, go ahead, go for it. I'll kick you out the door myself. Or there has been times where I'm thinking, oh, God, really? And now what am I going to do? I'm like, so many drummers down, I'm so many pipers down, whatever. It's one of those situations where you're like, no, I really need to cling on to members here, and you're going to the competition. I completely get it. I understand it. I've been there, and it's just part of the piping game, unfortunately. Yeah. Folks, I guess this will be an area of the piping world that we will delve into in a future show. Okay? If the wealth of weekly drones tells you anything, it does say, well, it illustrates that everyone has an opinion on this. And I don't think no matter what way I tackle this topic, I'm going to please everybody, because opinions do seem to differ wildly on this. I have to say, with regard to this situation between the Federation band and Shots, the timing of all of it for both bands is poor. We've mentioned that before. That's where all of this falls down. But, both bands are in the same situation now, having to build drum corps and hopefully hit the circle with some big tunes this season, and could potentially be within a very short window. Yeah. When you consider the UK Championships could be moving now to the 3rd of May, that's an even tighter window, isn't it? All right, well, I think that's pretty much it for all of Weekly Draw, and I'm going to draw a line under it there, although there are others on the shelves, and we will delve into those in future episodes. Folks, if you do want to send in your own particular Weekly Drone, you can do. Go to our website, thebigrabshow.com, and send us in your own thoughts and opinions on this. And I have no doubt the poaching conversation will continue as the rest of this year progresses. All right, folks, I think with that all being said, time for me to take a little short break at this point. Time to get into all the news and updates. Kingdom Thistle Pipe Band Supplies. For all your pipe band and marching band needs. Supplying everything from uniforms and instruments to custom-designed bass drum heads. They offer it all. Not forgetting their exclusive Kingdom Ghillie Brogues and George Boots, crafted by bands for bands. Kingdom Thistle provides expert product advice and an industry-leading drum refurbishment service to keep your equipment in top-class condition. Also, shipping worldwide. So, stop by their store in Fife or visit them online at kingdomthistle.com for all your pipe band and marching needs. Okay, well, leading out the gates, I guess, was everything that happened at the Ardmore Cup Invitational Solo Competition, which took place this past weekend. Yeah, the overall winner of the event itself was Finlay Johnson. Yes, congratulations. Finlay managed to win the MSR competition and he won the medley competition as well. So, yeah, just full congratulations to everyone who's competing there. And, yeah, we have captured, well, a good number of those on our social media. We've shared out the videos when we can. So thank you to those who did manage to film little clips here and there. And even some of the videos that we've seen of the after party as well from the Ardmore Cup is kind of the stuff of legend. Just really, really brilliant to see some amazing bagpiping on offer there at the Ardmore Cup Invitational. So, yeah, this event seems to be going from strength to strength. So just well done to everybody involved there. It was honestly fantastic to enjoy all of it. So, yeah, all these little clips that we've seen online. I have to say, one of the particular highlights, actually, for me, was the medley performance by James Fraser. I actually seen the video clip of that. Just James sounded fantastic. Well done. And yeah, also to James Stone as well. Caught his MSR performance. Just really, really strong. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, well done to everyone involved in the Ardmore Cup. And yeah, well done to Finlay Johnson, the overall winner there. Okay, now I'm also just going to mention that things are really starting to ramp up in New Zealand right now. There's been a lot of competitions over the course of this past weekend, and a lot of bands are stepping out and winning prizes all over the place. Now, it'll be way too much for me to get into with who won what and where, because there was a lot of piping action in New Zealand this past weekend, and there will be this weekend as well, because, well, the Nationals are next week. Yep, New Zealand Nationals are next week, the 8th of March. Now, we have yet to hear any details of any online live stream element of that, so yeah, as soon as we know, we'll let you folks know about where you can tune in. We are hopeful that that'll be in place by the time we upload next week's episode. So, yeah, just to give you a heads up, there's tons of piping happening down there in New Zealand. And, yeah, the Nationals are just around the corner, 8th of March. I hope that date's in your diary already. But, Yeah, that's going to be a good one, that. Okay, I also have to give a bit of a shout out this week to Preston Lodge. Yes, for fans of the mighty PL, there has never been a better time, actually. Yeah, their Live in 25 concert took place a while ago, and we were talking about that at the time. But for fans of the band, yeah, be sure to be following them on their socials, because over this next couple of weeks, they're going to be uploading a video every day from that concert. That's brilliant. Now, we've been keeping across it all, of course, and the music on offer here from Preston Lodge at that concert was just blistering, okay? It's just kind of ridiculous how good it is. So, if you haven't been following them yet, I would urge you, go there now, go and check it out. Music from their Novice B, Novice A, and Juvenile Band, all at their Live in 25 concert, will be uploaded to their socials over the next couple of weeks. And there's a lot of great music to enjoy. So, yeah, I'm going to start picking out my particular favourite videos, but I'm going to write a hashtag list here. But yeah, shout out to the mighty PL. What a fantastic venture. The Live in 25 concert seems to have been a smash hit, and the music involved here was just incredible. Well done, everyone at PL, and yeah, be sure to give them a follow. Okay, it seems to be pretty much every episode of the pod we're managing to mention Ross Miller, but that's for good reason. Ross is an incredibly busy fella, and, well, just at the point of recording this, yeah, he's now released the video of his latest single called The Drunken Man from Calabacan. Such a great track. And do you know what? The riff of which, the guitar playing in this, has been stuck in my head now for weeks. So, yeah, just go and check it out. I'm sure by now fans of Ross Miller have already seen it. So, yeah, just go and have a watch at it. Ross Miller, blistering bagpiper and composer, and this tune, The Drunken Man of Calabacan, is such a great, great tune. It absolutely slaps. Isn't that what people say? Yeah, go and check out the music video. It's been published now on Ross Miller Music. There you are. So, also by way of just a huge mention, I know we mentioned the Ardmore Cup was this past weekend there in County Wexford, but also taking place this past weekend was also, well, the National Piping Centre Junior Piping Competition took place past weekend. And yeah, winners in that have all been announced across the National Piping Centre socials. You can go and check that out. Also, the Archie Kenneth Quake competition took place as well as the Glasgow Highland Club Schools competition. Yeah, there's a wealth of great bagpiping action all across, I have to say. So, I don't know. For all of the details on all of those competitions, you can go online, read all of the details about who won what. There's a wealth of it. All right, I'm not going to sit here and read a hashtag list for everyone, but suffice to say, I have seen a lot of the footage from the schools competition. That seemed to be fantastically well attended, and well done to all of the bands involved. All those schools just sounded brilliant. Also, the junior piping competition, the wealth of entries for this competition really shows that bagpiping is in a very healthy place with the younger generation. So it's brilliant to see a lot of great young pipers getting involved in competition at the National Piping Centre. Well done to everybody involved. As for the Archie Kenneth Quake competition, unfortunately I wasn't aware to see who had won what. However, I am doing my due diligence. I am keeping across that to see if I can find out who did win. And yeah, if you know who won that, please let us know. Email us in bigrabshow@gmail.com. Yeah. Right, let's fly on. If you do want to catch all of those details, though, you can go online and Google them, and you can find all of the listings of who won what and where. There you are. Let's move on. I have to give a bit of a shameless plug, just when we're talking about the National Piping Centre, actually, about their upcoming spring gathering, which is about to take place. Now, these gatherings that the Piping Centre run for each season, honestly, folks, I can't oversell them enough. They're brilliant, and they bring in people from all arts and parts, not just in the UK, but from around the world who register and take part in this. This next gathering is taking place, as I've said, the spring gathering. It's happening on the 24th to 26th of April, and will be a full weekend filled with workshops, masterclasses, practical sessions, hands-on with your bagpipe maintenance and stuff like that. And honestly, will be a fantastic way to prepare for this season ahead. You know, it's honestly really, really well placed. 24th, 26th of April, you couldn't get better when you consider the season could potentially start on the 3rd of May. Have we mentioned that already? Yeah, so do consider, if you do want to be a part of that spring gathering at the National Piping Centre, well, registrations are now open. Go to thepipingcentre.co.uk, submit your details, and Yeah, be a part of one of these amazing events. You know something? I'm even quite sorely tempted to go myself. You know, a wee weekend in Glasgow filled with workshops, masterclasses, practical lessons with, you know, some of the best in the piping game. Honestly, what's not to love? So go and check it out, thepipingcentre.co.uk. Go and check out all the information yourself, the classes that are on offer here and what you could gain. Honestly, I think there's a lot to enjoy here. So there you are. Their spring gathering is taking registrations now. And also check out the rest of them as well. They have the summer, autumn, winter. Go and check out all of their gatherings. They really are fantastic. Okay, now, we did mention this on a previous Big Rab Show pod about how disappointing it was to see that a lot of companies can now no longer ship to Northern Ireland or the EU without GPSR issues. Yes, that old pesky border in the Irish Sea was causing all sorts of problems with getting goods shipped across from Scotland or mainland England across to us here in Northern Ireland, even though we are still part of the UK, technically. There you are. Yeah, and there was a lot of political wranglings behind the scenes still, and this still rumbles on to this day. Yeah, even if you were to go on the likes of, I don't know, name a big retailer, like Amazon or Tesco or one of these big retailers online, and if you try to order something that needs to be shipped across from the mainland to here, it won't happen. Just computer says no, and that's been the case now for a while since this new law came into force. Well, we're now starting to see announcements from bagpiping companies to say that, well, they've now put plans in place to, be fully GPSR compliant, which is fantastic news. There's been so many companies out there who kind of ignored the rules and continued shipping anyway and have not had any repercussions. And I'll not name the companies, but there's quite a number of them. Anyway, let's say the flow of bagpipes and drums and harnesses and sticks and uniforms and all that has not been impinged by this at all. However, there's been announcements in the last while, of course, of the past week, notably from the company Flam 5, who have now said that they are now fully GPSR compliant. So if you're listening to my voice and you're living here in Northern Ireland or anywhere in the EU, you can now get all of your Flam 5 swag without any care. There you are. Which is brilliant, I have to say. So, yeah, kudos to Flam 5 for obeying the rules and now being fully compliant. So, yeah, that's fantastic news. Now, not only Flam 5, there are a number of other companies out there that have also announced that they're GPSR compliant, which is amazing. It's fantastic news. So, yeah, it's great to see the companies are taking these steps to make sure that the supply lines are kept open and that a lot of pipers and drummers can, get the latest and greatest gear, I guess. So, yeah, shout out to Flam 5 and to all those other companies who've been placing those announcements in recent days. It's just brilliant to see the supply lines are still open and flowing well. All right. I want to talk about Rodney Brownlee again. Yeah, another pod, another show, and I'm talking about Rodney. Now, you folks, we mentioned this on last week's pod, and a lot of people then messaged me straight after going, what videos? I never seen any video. Well, come on. I don't know where you have been, but Rodney Brownlee has been uploading a wealth of really great videos on his YouTube channel from back in the day. Now, some of these videos are from decades ago, and the music on offer here has really sparked a bit of a conversation. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk online about the music that was produced back in the 80s and 90s, and where we are now in the 2020s. Have we really advanced that much? Or should we potentially look back to the music then as being more advanced than what it is now? That's been an argument that's been held online for a while. And I don't know. It's took some interesting twists and turns. There are some people saying, oh, the music was better in my day. Sure, nobody can play nowadays. And then, those people who look back with rose-tinted glasses, I guess. But then there's those that they also look ahead and think everything's rubbish. But, folks, just go back and listen to last year's World Championships. Some of those runs from grade 2, grade 3... but absolutely melt your face. They're ridiculously good. Now, so, do I think the standard has dropped over the years? No, I do not. Do I think that there was some decades better than others? Perhaps. Yeah, there has been the odd time I have delved into Nostalgia Town and felt that the music was better in a particular era than what it was in another one. And I guess everyone has their opinion on that front. Oh, the 80s were better than the 90s. Oh, the 90s were better than the noughties, etc., etc. And I suppose anyone who is listening back to old recordings can think that their own era of piping was better than the current one. Or, I don't know, I would urge you to go back, listen to these old recordings from Rodney Brownlee, who's continuing to churn out the good stuff, by the way. This is a huge plug for Rodney. Go and check out his historical stuff that he's putting up there. It's brilliant, but it has sparked a bit of a debate now in the piping scene locally. You know, have we come on any farther than what we were back then? And it does raise an interesting discussion. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a future Rab Show, either on Fuse or even here in the pod if you do have such an opinion. Go back, have a listen to all of that old stuff from the 80s and 90s and early noughties. Then have a listen to the modern day. All right? Try your best to be impartial and draw comparison. Now, what I mean by that is you're not listening to essentially the tone, okay? Because the technology back in the 80s was completely different to the technology we have nowadays. Synthetic bags, synthetic reeds, moisture control systems, etc. But I'm talking about the actual playing, the technique, the music as it's presented, the musicality, and the feeling it gives you. And that's kind of the intangible. To some people, that older stuff kind of is meh, and to some people, it's just blistering and it's amazing. I don't know. So I would love to know your opinions on this, folks. We are going to delve into this, I'm sure, in a future show. But yeah, just a huge plug for Rodney Brownlee, who's continuing to churn out the good stuff. It's just brilliant. So a huge shout out to Rodney. Keep up the great work. I hope you have a full shelf still of videos that you need to convert. And yeah, we're massive fans watching all of this. So keep her lit, as they say. Now, just last week, I published a video on the Big Rab Show YouTube channel where I got quite a special package in the mail. I'm sure you might have seen it by now. And the title of it was Unboxing Pipe Band History, where I got something really quite special in the mail, thanks to a pretty lucky find on eBay. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I would urge you to go and watch the video if you have the time, where I do get something really quite special added to my pipe band collection. And it is now looking at me right now as I'm talking to you. And I still can't believe I have it on the shelf. Anyway, go and check out the video. Honestly, I am just so chuffed to have this in my pipe band collection. And yeah, just a shameless plug for the Big Rab Show YouTube channel. Just as much as we're plugging Rodney's there, go and check out ours as well. And I have the opportunity to unbox a piece of pipe band history. Oh, I'm so chuffed to have that. And it's sitting right here. Look at you. Oh, you handsome W. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, at the point of recording last week's podcast, the Blackthorn Piping Society was underway. Now, we didn't mention it last week, of course, because we were quite a packed show last week, but I do want to give a huge shout out to Sean Maloney, who was the Blackthorn Piper for last week. Well, this past month in February. Honestly, I can't get over the performance. It was just fantastic. I don't know, the absolute tone that Sean produced from those pipes was just mesmerizing, but also the playing on offer here was just fantastic. I just don't know. Sean, it was ridiculous. It was so good, and full credit to you. It sounded absolutely fantastic. What it would have been like to have been in the room for that. Wow. You know, if the recordings are anything to go by, whew. Anyway, so this was Sean ahead of course, appearing at the Ardmore Cup then that weekend. So, yeah, just wanted to give Sean a huge prop there, and being the Blackthorn Piper for this past month in February, done an outstanding job. And the sets that were played were just, yeah, wow. Absolutely wow. Well done, Sean. All right, well, we were curious a while ago as to where Grant Cassidy was going to end up. You know, as we were talking about this last week, that we had no clue, really, as to what Grant was going to go on to do. Well, we got an announcement from Methil and District Pipe Band. Yeah, I'm going to read this verbatim. It said, "We've been working hard for this past few months and can't wait to make our debut in Grade 3A. Yes, we've been looking forward to seeing them in the circle now, for sure. But, as we mentioned, there's an announcement here about Grant Cassidy. Yeah, they're also delighted to welcome Grant Cassidy to the band, who will be teaching our young prospects. And long-term member Chris Keatings will be the lead tipper of the corps. Yeah, there you go. So, Grant Cassidy is helping out, teaching some of the youngsters there at Methil and District Pipe Band. So, hi, fantastic. Well done. So, if anything, as mentioned, dead excited to see Methil in the circle and the music that they're going to produce. But also, it's just fantastic to see Grant Cassidy teaching some of the younger kiddos there. And so, hey, that's a brilliant development there. There you go. So, that's the first sort of little inkling as to what Grant's up to. I'm sure he's honestly still incredibly busy with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who are recording a new album at the moment, of course. But as to any other pipe band action from Grant, we don't know. We have yet to hear any other further announcements. But hey, he's helping out there at Methil, so brilliant. Good stuff. Okay, so before we wrap it up with all the news and updates and everything, I do want to put a bit of a warning out there for folks, especially those who are on social media and following a lot of these different accounts and things for upcoming competitions. Mostly, well, I've been seeing a lot of fake accounts being created for the likes of the New Zealand National Championships and also for the Scottish Schools Pipes and Drums Trust competition that's coming up, the Scottish Schools Pipes and Drum Championship, which is taking place in March. We spoke about that, of course, in an earlier pod, but this worrying new trend of fake accounts that are sending people friend requests online, and unfortunately, a lot of people are accepting them. Now, as a result of people accepting them, it does make the account look legitimate when it's completely fraudulent. Now, I have to say, my advice here is to stick with the actual, real, verified people, the accounts that you should be paying attention to, like the RNZ PBA or the Scottish Schools Pipes and Drums Trust. Please ignore all of the event invites and all of that kind of stuff. And the friend requests that you get from these fake accounts can be really quite damaging. Yeah, they could hack your profiles. They could possibly, heaven forbid, access your payment information, things like that. You need to be particularly careful when it comes to accepting friend requests, especially those from an unsolicited source or an event that's coming up that promises if you click on this link, you can watch the live stream now. Just provide us your credit card, your bank card, your shoe size, blood type, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, just please, folks, be mindful of clicking on friend requests from events. There's a lot of fake accounts flying around out there now, so just be mindful of that going forward if you can. So that's pretty much it for all of the news and updates for this week. We're going to draw a line under it there at this point. I think this past week, the news has been absolutely dominated, and rightly so, by the incredibly sad passing of a bagpiping legend, Bill Livingston. And again, we have to stress that we're very keenly aware of that. And yeah, we did have this week's topic of the week recorded long before this news ever broke. And we did have plans to delve into all sorts of different topics this week. But we are going to knock that down the road and address it on next week's show. So if there are any news stories that we have not talked about, then please do make us aware of it. We'll definitely make a point to raise them on next week's show. bigrabshow@gmail.com. That address again, bigrabshow@gmail.com. But we do feel at times like this is when our bagpiping world should pull together and celebrate the music and legacy of such legends and, keep the music flowing. So with that in mind, I think we're about to get into quite an interesting topic of the week this week, where we do catch up with Ali the Piper as she's set to release a brand new album and launch a new tour. So, I think it's time for me to go and get a big cup of tea. It's time for the topic of the week. Wallace Bagpipes. Quality, pride and passion. Made in Scotland. Proud bagpipe supplier to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. From the most basic of sets to the most elaborate, they have something for everyone. Also offering bagpipe repairs and restoration. From a simple makeover to a full overhaul. From a chipped mount to a complete replacement. Wallace Bagpipes have you covered. Visit wallacebagpipes.com for more information or contact your nearest dealer. Right, let's get into the topic of the week. Now, as I've said, this interview has been pre-recorded quite a while ago, but we're releasing it this week because it's quite aptly timed, I guess, because, well, Ali the Piper is going to be releasing a new album in the next few days called The Session. And yeah, there's a wealth of great music on here to enjoy. Not only for Ali the Piper fans, but for bagpiping fans in general that should be, paying attention to this. There'll be a wealth of great music on offer here. I should know, I've already heard it. It's honestly quite cool. Yeah. So, not only that, but there'll also be news of a tour that's being launched very soon, and she'll be, playing dates all across the United States. So, there's never been a better time to be a fan of Ali and her music, and, we thought we would bring that to this week's show. So, without further ado, let's welcome Ali to the show. So, welcome back to the podcast, Piper Ali. Ali, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
The best. Well, if anything, you've been insanely busy since we were last talking with you.
Yes, I try to stay busy. It keeps me from going crazy.
Yeah, but I have to ask you then about Piping Live. That's the last time I caught up with you. It was in Glasgow last year. Well,
Yes.
now the dust has settled. How did you find it?
I loved Piping Live. I was originally only supposed to be there for about 3 days, and then I had to go to a show, but the show got canceled, and so I personally bought a later flight so that I could stay through the World Championships, and I'm really glad I did. I also got horrifically sick during my time there. I have no idea
No.
what happened, but it was just like one day, and then the day that I saw you, it was like the day after, and I was like half dead.
Oh,
But I just
no.
like I couldn't stop from going out and doing everything because I
Yeah.
had 6 days in one of my favorite cities in the entire world. And then of course the actual experience of being able to be involved and invested in Piping Live. Obviously, this wasn't my first time over for Scotland. This wasn't my first time seeing Piping Live events, but it was my first time not having to do rehearsals for a world championship. So I had so much freedom while I was over there to like fully, properly enjoy everything. And it made me really have a lot of appreciation for everything that really goes on for that entire week. Like there's
Mm,
not a single moment where you can't be invested in the culture. And that's
yeah.
quite beautiful and very well done.
It's quite full on too, though. Sometimes whenever I return from Piping Live, I think I need another week off to kind of just
I
recover
know.
from it all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to go directly from there and do a show.
Yeah, so well, let's talk about the World Championships. Whenever I bumped into you on the park, it was kind of unexpected. I wasn't expecting you to be there, and then you were like, "Hey, Rob, where's the final tune?" And it seemed to be you were running all over the place, Ali.
Yes, I was. I was trying to be there to support a lot of different people who I just like personally care about who were involved in the World Championships. And I hadn't been to the World Championships prior to this year, since 2015. So there was a
Wow.
lot for
Yeah.
me to really see. And again, this was one of my first times being at the World Championships where I wasn't tied to a band. So
Yeah.
it was really, I mean, I got to see the worlds in a different lens for the first time.
As a spectator, and it's a totally different event whenever you're not so stressed out, isn't it? You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a way it seems bigger, and then in other ways it seems smaller. I really don't know
Yeah.
how to like verbalize it. I think it seems smaller because I don't have the pressure.
There you go.
It
Yeah,
seems
that's it.
larger because I literally couldn't see everything.
Well, it's totally different when you don't have a pipe major yelling at you at every opportunity, I guess.
Yes,
Hi.
it is.
There you go. But I guess one of the elements I had to chat to you about is obviously with Piping Live and the Worlds, you were quite a huge attraction at the festival and at the World Championships too. I'm sure you had any amount of people all snapping selfies and saying hi.
I did, yeah. And to be completely honest, I didn't originally plan my trip over to Scotland to include the Worlds because I was supposed to leave.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I didn't really think about it beforehand. But it was a crazy experience being just in the middle of everybody who knew who I was, whether they wanted to or not, because I unfortunately now get to be the thing that people send to all their piping friends.
Right.
So whether
Yeah.
they wanted to know who I was or not, they knew. So I didn't really have, I was wearing a hat. I was wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of gives it away that it's me. But I wasn't upset about it at all. I was like really happy to be able to talk to people, and it was kind of a little bit of a culture shock experience just to be surrounded by so many people who knew who I was. that wasn't at
Sure.
a show.
Because that's one of those things, like the gigs that you're doing or have done in the past, I'm sure haven't been at, well, a good majority of pipe band competitions, in the piping scene. I'm sure like it's outside of that, but I'm right in saying that.
Yeah, I've done a couple Highland Games,
Hmm.
and I do a lot of Celtic and cultural festivals here in the States, but a lot of those are a combination of Irish and Scottish, so you have a lot of like, it's not just pipe band people. It's definitely not
Hmm.
just pipers. I've had the luxury of meeting a couple bagpipers on the road, like younger bagpipers, who are actually going to be joining me during my tour, which is very
Oh,
exciting.
nice. Yeah.
But seeing the amount of young aspiring bagpipers at the World Championships and during Piping Live, like completely different experience.
Yeah, oh, it's fantastic to see, Ali. And yeah, we've mentioned it on the show before that you definitely are an inspiration for folks wanting to do something different in bagpiping. And it's been, yeah, so well received. Well, we're talking about exciting things that you've been up to. I have to talk about the Colts game, the halftime show. Oh my word.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually still can't believe that it happened. Because I don't think it ever really settled in that it took place,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was such an amazing experience. Um, 65,000 people.
Oh, what? I was
I
going to
think
ask
that's
you how big the crowd was. That's nuts.
yeah, yeah, 65,000 people, and I played for them twice in the stadium. One was
Wow.
the halftime show, and then the second was a TV timeout between the third and the fourth quarter. And I
Yeah.
played the guitar solo from "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses, which was something that had
Nice.
recently gone viral for me on social media, and is one of the more challenging things I've had to transcribe. Um,
Yeah.
so, you know,
Yeah,
sure,
but
just
the
throw it out.
production, do you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like there was pyro, there was dancers everywhere, and then guys all run
everything.
about with drums and everything. Being in the middle of that is bound to have been chaotic.
Yeah, again, this is my brain just not thinking about things beforehand. I knew I was going to be involved in the halftime show. Obviously, I knew I was going to be the only bagpiper involved in the halftime show. However, it did not occur to me that I would be the center of the halftime show.
Right in the
That
middle,
didn't
yeah.
really, yeah, no, for some reason, I was like, yeah, I'll probably walk on and then walk, I don't know. But
Yeah.
no, they curated the entire halftime show performance around me being on the center stage, which is an illuminated blue
Hmm.
stage. And it was just, my God, we had four run-throughs of rehearsal the day before, and
Yeah.
then two the morning of, and then it was the halftime show. So I knew my cue, and when my cue came up, I had no choice but to walk across the field.
There was no
Um,
backing out at that
there
stage
was
then, yeah.
nope, no, there was not. There was not any. I think I performed almost the entire show with my eyes shut.
Oh no.
Um, it's okay. Once I was on the platform, I was like, play,
Yeah.
play. There
Just
were also,
ignore the thousands of people. Yeah.
well, yeah, because we were facing the home team side, and
Right.
so the home team side like doesn't really leave during halftime.
Mm.
Um, like a lot of people will use halftime to go get food or use the restroom, and so
Yeah.
some people left the stands, but it was still on the TV screens throughout the entire stadium, so like you
Yeah.
couldn't escape the bagpipes that day. You certainly could not escape them.
Oh, but it was honestly a fantastic moment. And seeing bagpipes displayed like this in such a huge event, honestly, it was really special. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just so like as a piper, completely separate from being involved in the actual halftime show, watching the videos back, I was just personally getting so amped for the
Yeah.
bagpipes. Like I was like, "Oh my God, like we're displaying the bagpipes like in such a big way and as just another musical instrument. Like this wasn't something that was like, play, Scotland the Brave or
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
Green Hills marching in with the whole, traditional style thing
Hmm.
that we're used to seeing in large events like,
Yeah.
the tattoo and things like that. Bagpipes
Hmm.
have their space on that grand stage in that way. But to see bagpipes this way as a solo instrument, a solo featured instrument playing Sandstorm, um,
Yeah. That
with
was really,
like
really cool.
hundreds of people dancing. There were like 200, 300 cheerleaders on the field at that point.
Wow.
They
Yeah.
had the main Colts cheerleaders and then they had their entire junior cheerleading squad on the entire field. So every inch of the field was covered by like cheerleaders
Yeah.
dancing and the drum line and Yeah, it was a lot.
It was insane. But I have to say, like watching even a lot of your backstage stuff when you were there, you just looked to be so like really excited to be there. And I'm sure it
Yeah.
took a while for the realization of what happened to settle in after that.
Yeah, definitely. I had such a busy day that day because my band, we performed a pregame show
Mm,
for season ticket holders. So we had like an hour-long concert essentially
yeah.
at 10 in the morning. And then after that, I had to go do sound check stuff at the stadium. And then, well, before that, it was a 6 a.m. day to
Oh
start.
wow. Yeah.
So it was sound checking. I had two different mics I had to use because the NFL has pretty strict frequency requirements. So I had to
Oh,
use a different mic for my show and a different mic for the halftime. So I was like
right.
switching those on and off the pipes, which is no easy feat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was bouncing all over the place, and I was still doing my hair while the game was going on.
Oh no.
And my boyfriend was like, "You need to come out and just sit in the stadium for a minute." And I was like, "No, I won't do that. I'm not gonna do that." And he was like, "No, just trust me for 1 minute. Just come sit in your seat." And so I sat in my personal seat for 20 seconds of the entire day. I walked out there, I sat down, I looked at the stadium, and I was like, "Wow, what about a football game? This is cool. It's a lot of people." And then I was like, "Oh my God,
I've yeah, I have to play to this.
I
Yeah.
have to play to this." And I couldn't believe how small everybody looked, even
Mm.
from where I was sitting. And I started crying a little.
It's scary though. Yeah, you're right. It is scary.
Just a
Yeah.
touch. Well, yeah, I was just like, this is just so like
Massive.
this is just so otherworldly. Like I was so out of my element. Like I didn't have like, you know, anything that I was used to.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I got over it really fast and and I did the show. So
There you go. Well, for people listening right now, if you don't know what we're talking about, please do go and watch it. It is available online. You can go and watch the whole thing. I've watched it, I don't know how many times now. It's kind of ridiculous. But that video in itself has been sent around the world for so many people going, hey, bagpipes are cool. Look at this thing. And have you found that now as well? There's been a lot of upsurge, of referring your stuff this last while. Have you found that?
yeah, I think certain things keep popping up
Mm,
over and over again, which is kind of interesting because I've, in the grand scheme of things, only been on social media for a short period of time. It's been 4 years. And so I've had plenty of things go viral, but
mm.
virality is such like a spectrum of things. And so it's really interesting to see which things keep coming back up over and over
Yeah,
and over again. The halftime show is definitely getting like put over and over again.
yeah.
Freebird, that had a lot of weight, and then the Metallica incident, of course,
There you go.
has
Yeah,
recurred, I think, the most of everything. It's officially a meme.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are some of those things. I think it's like half and half. I have a lot of positive reactions to it, and then a lot of
Mm.
like, I'm tired of seeing this, like just play at Pete Rock kind of
Oh,
reactions to it.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It's
Yeah,
like, I would say it's more positive than negative, but I'm definitely
yeah.
seeing a lot of people maybe a little tired of seeing me.
Oh, no, not one bit. Well, if anything, people are going to see a lot more of you in the next few weeks, I guess. Well, the reason we have you on the podcast this week is because you have quite an exciting new release that's coming up. You've been promising this now for a while. We know you've been working on it. Tell us about this upcoming album, Ali.
So, I have been wanting to release this album essentially forever. This is like what I've always wanted to put out into the world in terms of my sound. It's a mostly original album. It's 8 songs in total. There are 2 covers on it. One of them is traditional style tunes, The Pumpkin's Fancy. We got Troy's Wedding, the Kesh Jig in there. The other one is a song I've covered before. It's by an Irish singer, but I play one of my old competition tunes, the Highland Division at Accurate, in it. And so those are the 2 covers. The rest are all originals. And it's a Highland bagpipe album. It has 2 that feature some whistles, but it's just like, I don't even know how to categorize. I should have like, I guess, written down what my thoughts are on it, but I just like, my head is spinning. It has so many musical influences. There's progressive metal, heavy metal, classic rock, pop, like a pop punk, kind of like everything that
Yeah.
I've always listened to and that has shaped me as a musician, not just as a piper. But then it has some like real tunes in it that I've written, just to be highlighted in that kind of like rock and contemporary feel. So it's everything I've ever wanted to write and record and produce.
I have to say, well, first of all, congratulations on it. I did get a bit of a sneaky preview copy, so thank you for that. And yeah, I have some questions. First of all, I have to ask you about the carbon fiber bagpipes. We've seen those on your social media and everything. Oh, they're behind you.
They're in the
for those
corner.
watching the video, yeah.
I have all of my pipes over here, but my carbon fiber ones are on the end right there.
Tell us about these pipes. I'm fascinated. Well, who made them, or where did they come from?
So they are by Carbony Celtic Winds. I have several of their whistles, and I've been a fan of their whistles for a long time, and I've talked about them a lot. They're made out of carbon fiber, so they're super durable, which makes it really great for travel. I've had whistles chip in, travel in the past because I try to shove everything in one little case because I like to bring a lot of instruments. But anyway, so I started using their whistles very early on, like pre-social media. And the first one that I got was a Highland bagpipe whistle. So you can play Highland bagpipe tunes with Highland bagpipe fingering, so the high A and the low G. On a whistle, which gives you that like cross of tonality. And so I've recorded with it a lot. And I finally got to meet Rob, the man who owns this company. And he said, listen, I'd really love to talk to you about making you a bagpipe in the key of A. So it's a full A440 bagpipe. The drones are A440. There's no drone extenders. It's just an A440 bagpipe. Right. And the chanter is so perfectly made to play in A. I've played a lot of A chanters in my time. And I feel like for me, because I play like, I don't play like 2x4 reeds, I play like reeds that are comfortable. I wouldn't say they're easy, but they're comfortable. So I'm not getting like that really, really low tone out of it. So sometimes they try to get a little sharp on me. But this one has been so...
I see. Just locked in. I was going to ask you about the tuning part of it, but it does easily lock into that. Yeah.
I set it up. I set up the reed I wanted. I ended up switching reeds, I think 2 days later. That reed has been in it since. It is locked and it's stable.
Wow.
I'm playing balanced tones in it, which is what I play in my other pipes as well. But they've performed in the live setting. They've performed in the studio setting, and I'm taking them on tour, and they'll be in about half of the show on tour. So
there you go. Now, the reason I'm asking about these pipes, because I believe there's a couple of tracks with the pipes in them. Is that right?
Yes, so the main feature track, because this bagpipe was finished in the middle of me recording the album.
Right.
So the main feature track where they play all the way through is the tune called Recalling the Green.
I see. There we go. Excellent. Yep. So for those of you that are about to get a copy of that, then keep an ear for that. So I do have a particular favorite on here, Ali, that I need to ask you about. Okay. Yes. Now, those of you out there haven't heard the album yet, you've no idea what I'm going to talk to. But the track called Follow Through is just beautiful. Can you tell me about, the composition process of that? I loved it.
Thank you so much. That one, I think it is the last track on the album.
Yeah.
It, in the grand scheme of things, has the least bagpipes in it, or it goes the longest before you get bagpipes. I think that one goes for about almost 2.5 minutes before the bagpipes come in.
Yeah.
And before that, it's vocals. So I'm singing on 3 tracks of this album as well. And so Follow Through, I wrote the lyrics for it. This is my first like fully solo original lyric composition that I've put out into the world. The other original vocal track I co-wrote on this album. So this one's like my baby.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, so the way this one worked out is the other person on this album, Don Marafa, who is my boyfriend, but he's also an amazing musician. He wrote a lot of the rhythm section. So he came forward and was like, I have a chord progression, and we kind of tweaked it here and there. And then we just started singing this like melody over top of it, and it really stuck. And we did that like 8 months ago. And the melody stuck, and we were just kind of humming it, and we knew that there would be a song that came out of it later. But this one was written last. And the lyrics came last. And as soon as the lyrics were written, the entire song completely changed, because that's just how it works.
I see.
And so I wrote the lyrics first, and then I really wanted that to kind of like settle. And I ended up removing 2 verses because at that point there was no space for bagpipes. So,
oh no! Oh right, okay.
So I was like, all right, we got to change this up. So this one had a lot of editing that went into it so that it could kind of like land where it did. And then once I started writing the bagpipe part, I again had to like remove several bars, several parts of tunes because this song, I don't know what it is about it. I just had so much like creativity with writing this one that I could probably extract like 4 new songs from the original
From the one,
material.
yeah.
But this bagpipe part is my favorite to play on the entire album. I wanted it to start as like not really a tune, but kind of like a melody you'd maybe hear a guitar playing or some other instrumental feature.
Yeah.
And then it was like bam, like bagpipe dancey, you know.
That's it. That's what I get. That's what I get from this. Yeah, it like starts out like a real melodic kind of vocal number, and then suddenly in come the pipes, and then all these layers. It's an adventure to listen to.
This one's really special too because if you listen through the album in full and then listen to the bagpipe part, it recalls I think 4 or 5 of the tracks on the album in the bagpipe part. Yeah. So like it's subtle, you know, it's little parts, like little harmony bits or little melodic riffs, but the bagpipe part recalls them at the end of the song. And so
it does. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it feels like the end of the album. It feels like the end of the process. And the song, like the actual content material of it as well, is really important to me. It's like, it's about positivity. It's about pushing through mental health. It's about, you know, taking struggles and like making them something beautiful and making them something bigger. And so it has a lot of meaning in every single aspect that I could possibly describe.
No, it's definitely one of the more complex numbers on there, I think, for sure. You know, you can listen again and still hear something different. And I love music like that. So I absolutely latched onto that. Honestly, one of the tracks that, again, surprised me on the album was, we know that you're a prolific bagpiper and we know you can also handle a whistle, but this album, the track at the very beginning, North to Palmer, really demonstrated your whistle playing here. Can you tell me about this track?
Thank you. North to Palmer is another one of my favorites. I can't really, they're all like my children, so I can't, you know, choose. But North to Palmer was one of the first tracks fully written on the album. It was the second track to be completely written, and it kind of wrote itself. The whistle part came first, and then the bagpipe part was written to complement the whistle, and it's kind of a contrast. You know, they're definitely different. It's in a different key. And so the whistle part, again, I was just playing along to the guitar, and there were just some things that really, really stuck out with it. I didn't really intend for it to be challenging to play, but there were things that I heard while I was kind of writing the little whistle part, and I was like, no, I need to like evolve this. This needs to get more complex. I'm fully self-taught with the whistle, and so there are things that yes. So I picked it up doing sessions. As one does. And then I actually fell in love with the whistle again during the pandemic, when I was starting to do all of my live streams, my COVID live streams, because I wanted to play stuff that was other, you know, not just pipes. I wanted to pick up my whistle. And so I picked up this like homemade PVC low D whistle that I had, which I have since graduated from. But yeah, I love the tonality of the tin whistle. It's I mean, I love all whistles, but it's still, the tonality is just my favorite. So I really wanted to, you know, feature it. But this song, it feels very like progressive. I think in the entire album, this one has the most like progressive metal feel to it.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely fun. And I have to play both of them live, the whistle and then the bagpipes. And something I realized, I played this one a couple of weeks ago in Pittsburgh, and I debuted it there on the full Highland bagpipe. Something I realized is that the whistle is so much harder to play than the bagpipes, like for lung capacity, especially if you've just played the bagpipes.
Right.
And I was like,
I get you. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to like practice a little more. So I've been playing it like walking up and down the stairs, if I'm being completely honest.
I see. Because you haven't got your arm to rely on, you see, that's it. Yeah.
No, I figured it out with bagpipes. I figured out how to like run around and jump around and be energetic and still play the bagpipes with comfort and ease.
Yeah.
I have a couple hundred shows to get under my belt before I'm that comfortable on the whistle, I think.
Yeah, there you go. But honestly, Alison, it really does set the tone for the whole album. There's other tracks I could mention, but those are the two that really stood out to me personally. So thank you for answering
Thank
those.
you.
So
Thank you
the
so
session,
much.
that when is it out? When is it released? And when can people get it?
Digitally, this will be out on February 28th.
There you
And
go.
then I will be selling my hard copy CD first on my tour. And then once my tour is over, it will be available on my website.
Superb. Well, speaking of tour, then that does neatly bring me round to what I wanted to chat to you about as well. The tour. You had a huge announcement there not too long ago of dates all across the US. Now, they're everywhere. Tell us about your
Yes.
upcoming dates.
So this tour is in cities that I have visited mostly before. I have a couple new cities that I'm visiting on this tour. But this is like, I feel like my debut as an established solo artist. And so I wanted to kind of circle back to some cities that I started in to begin with. So my first show on this tour is at the same venue that the first live concert I ever performed as, as an artist from social media.
Oh,
It's at the same
wow.
venue. So it's very special in that way. And I'm hitting a couple other venues on this tour that I've played before, like the Egg in Albany. That's my hometown venue. So
There you
I've
go.
performed a show there. I've also like seen so many shows there. The Tupelo in Derry, New Hampshire, is another one that I've sold out before and I just sold out again. Same thing with the Boston City Winery. I've sold it out before and I've sold it out again. So I'm kind of like going back to these places to kind of um like I don't know, as an homage to the past, but also to reestablish this new sound,
Yeah.
and to kind of give a new life to what I have traveled through there before with. This is the first of several tours that's going to happen. I'm planning to take this album as many places as I possibly can. So patience, but I can only do so much time at once. So, this is a Midwest and the Northeast and New England, and the new places I'm going are Connecticut and Maine. I've never performed a show in either of those states before, and so I'm very excited to be, I guess, introducing myself to these new places.
There you go. Superb. Well, I think one of the dates that I particularly picked out here, you're going to be in Louisville on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, I am.
What? That's going to be so much fun.
I am, yeah, and I'm really excited. I have a couple friends who are coming out to the show. A friend of mine might be coming on stage to play with me, and I'm very excited because we've met each other through social media. We did a collab a really long time ago, but she took some time off, and I kind of went and did a different thing for a little while. So we're going to be like reuniting, but meeting in person for the first time.
Wow.
So
There
that'll
you
be
go.
special. And then another friend of mine from social media, David Michael Frank, is going to be opening 7 shows in the Midwest, and Louisville is one of the shows that he's going to be opening for. And so the idea is that this is just going to be like the biggest St. Patrick's Day party that Kentucky has ever seen. Um,
Brilliant. I love it. Yeah.
and it's a nice central point. It's only a couple hours from Nashville. It's only a couple hours from some of the other venues. So like I think it's a really good midpoint, like dead center in the middle of the country to celebrate like
There you
the
go.
most
Yeah.
heritage that you possibly can in one little venue.
So if you're wanting to enjoy yourself in St. Patrick's and you're in the area, definitely go and see Ali in concert. That's for sure. Yeah. So have you got any other little surprises for us? Tours aplenty, new album and all that. It's going to be an incredibly busy year for you. But have you anything else, pardon the pun, in the pipeline coming
In
up
the
this year?
pipeline. I might have a couple things planned. I am very excited about the original album, and I'm very excited, well, the mostly original album. I'm very excited that this is going out, but I do still have a lot of love for my rock and metal covers. So my plans
Yeah.
are to release another album this year,
Oh.
of covers.
Hmm.
So that will be coming down the road. And I've actually already started writing my next album,
Wow,
past the
already?
cover one. Yes, I have no chill, none at all.
Wow.
So yeah, I have a lot of things happening. I really want to just dive really deep into releasing and writing music very, very regularly. It's fun. I mean, obviously it's fun, but it's nice to just like take a break from just doing the covers and really like give life to all the music that's been brewing inside. So I
Yeah.
have a couple originals that I've released, but nothing like this. So while I do the cover album, I'm going to be also writing my next original album.
Oh, it's brilliant,
music will
honestly.
not stop.
No, fantastic. I'm so glad to hear it. Yeah, because I was going to ask you about how you found the process of making the session, and I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Because honestly, I like that. Yeah, congratulations. This is such a fantastic album, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will really enjoy it too. So, yeah. Please go and check the link in your show notes or just down below now where you're watching, and go and pre-order the album or order it, I suppose, whenever you're watching this, and then go and book tickets for the upcoming tour. Yeah. Alec, thanks so much for joining us on the show this week. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
There you have it. A lot of really exciting news there, of course, for Piper Ali fans. Yeah. And a huge shout out to Ali for joining us on the show this week. We really appreciate your time. Thank you. So, as I've said, the link is in your show notes right now, no matter where you're listening. Of course, you can go and check out all those details as to where to go and grab the album, and of course, those all-important tickets for those upcoming shows. Yeah, and that one on St. Patrick's Day sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Anyway, there you go. So, folks, thank you all for downloading this week. That's pretty much it for another Big Rab Show podcast. In what has been quite a difficult week for a lot of us in the bagpiping world, we thought that we would do our best to keep the wheel turning, keep the music playing, and hopefully bring you quite a positive news story with a lot of exciting new music and tour dates and stuff. Yeah, that was the idea behind this week's show. We absolutely, again, recognize the fact that the bagpiping world has lost a legend. And yeah, no doubt we will be revisiting a lot of Bill's music on this upcoming Fuse FM Ballymoney radio show. It was heavily requested that we play a lot of the 78th Fraser Highlanders on last week's show. And yeah, we're going to play all of that music this incoming week. All of you listening to my voice right now are part of the bagpiping family. Whether you like it or not, we do have this one common interest at heart, where we love this music, and we also love its people. Ourselves here in the Big Rab Show team, we do find ourselves on occasions like this as being a bit of a community hub, where the bagpiping world does come together during times like this that can be incredibly difficult to get through, and we all mourn the loss of a dear friend. And we do find ourselves trying to buoy everybody up and say, hey, this person absolutely will be incredibly sorely missed by us all, but look at the incredible legacy they have left us with. The music is just impeccable. Also, the legacy of teaching, direction, and musical influence across our bagpiping scene, it cannot be underestimated. So again, we dedicate this week's episode to the late Bill Livingston, a legend in his time. And from all of us here in the Big Rab Show, we send our condolences to Lillian, to all of the family circle, and to everyone who is feeling this loss right now. I hope this week you can lift a toast, play some of Bill's music, and yeah, pay tribute to the legend. Everyone, thank you all for downloading this week. Don't forget, like every other podcast out there, yes, we do have a Patreon. There's a link in your show notes as well, where you can get a ton of extras, help support your favorite podcast, and help us keep the wheels turning and try and keep our community rolling, I guess, until the season unfolds. Everyone, thank you for downloading this week. Each and every week, of course, we'll be back again next week with even more bagpiping goodness. Until then, we'll see you all next week. All the best. Well, that's it for another Big Rab Show podcast. Thanks so much for downloading this week, and a special thank you to our sponsor, G1 Reeds. Played by bands around the world, they are the champion's choice. Check out g1reeds.com for all of your piping needs. Don't forget to check out thebigrabshow.com to be kept up to date with all of the latest news and views from around the piping world. And also, check us out on Patreon. For $5 a month, you can get your hands on tons of extra piping goodness and be a part of the Patreon faithful. So, until next week, folks, we'll see you right here on the Big Rab Show podcast. All the best.